Welcome to the girls. I'm here today with my daughter Jeannine, who decided to hop on in. Look at it, it's always gift time here. We're getting ready because spring is in the air.
Anything that lights up.
Yeah, it's spring.
Do you like how I match the flowers?
Oh, I do.
I did that on purpose.
Yeah, I know, because you're just like that. You have to match everything up.
Yep.
You're just a genius like your mom.
My flowered earrings. It's spring here, I think.
You think?
So I just came in from Florida a couple days ago, and I came at the worst time because the weather was nice here. The day I came in, it was raining. Then the next day, I think it was daylight saving, so it was snowing, raining, then it was windy, then the sun was out.
Well, how many years have you been living here?
What it wanted to do.
You know,
my whole life.
Your whole life, right?
21
so
years.
You know that we could have 4 seasons in one day, right? So you could drive 3 miles and go through 4 seasons too.
And then we wonder why we're sneezing, coughing, hacking. But anyway.
We're
Easter time.
Yeah, and we
Easter's
have beautiful
early this
flowers from Smith's.
Yeah, but it's early this year.
So
we got to get our decorating done. And it's weird decorating for Easter when it's snowing though, isn't it?
Well, we had an Easter when I was a kid. We woke up to, I think there were 14 or 15 inches of snow. It was a surprise. They didn't have all the weather maps and everything like they have now. So my dad had always bought it. We always had an Easter outfit. And my dad bought us corsages. We always had corsages. So there's 3 girls in the family and my mom. So these gorgeous orchids were sitting in the refrigerator and we got up to snow. So needless to say, we didn't wear the orchids, but we wore boots and our winter coats. And that was
when it's early, that's what happens.
Yeah, no, it wasn't even early that year. It was just a freaky snowstorm. And
I love decorating Easter eggs, so I always try to talk the kids into that they want to do it. And I found this TikTok video.
Well, your kids are like adults now.
Right, but I said it's still fun. We would do it.
Yeah, I would do it. We're kids.
So I found this TikTok video, and I want to try it. You take, I believe you boil the eggs, you get whipped cream, and you put the dots of the dye, and you get a toothpick and you mix
Wait a minute.
Wait.
Where do you put the dots in? Oh, in the whipped cream?
Yeah, in the whipped cream. Then you take the eggs and you just roll them in the dye, and then it shows the egg as tie-dyed. Maybe I'll show that on a Facebook. I'll see if I can do it. I think it's Cool Whip.
That's cool.
I'm pretty sure it's Cool Whip. And I'm pretty sure I have Cool Whip and eggs upstairs in my...
Oh, so we're going to do this.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't have the dye, though.
That'll be fun. And wear rubber gloves, I guess, because you have the dye.
I just thought it was cool because you don't have to worry about dumping in or dipping in and spilling all the stuff all around.
We'll see. The proof will be in the whipped cream.
If I do them, I'll post them. Yeah. At least one egg. Oh, and I guess the eggs really don't have to be boiled. I know someone who does half boiled and half non-boiled.
I'm hard boiling my eggs because if I'm going to handle an egg, sure as you know what, it's going to break.
Well, if it's in Cool Whip, whatever.
It's
stress relief.
Now, how do you like all my purple?
Stress relief.
All the purple.
Oh, okay. Is that a stress relief color?
This is a pretty color. It's a passionate color, I guess, for land.
All right. So we were talking about calmness and how we like to do fun things that could ease the mind. Well, we have a guest on today, Lisa Wolk. She's with Lehigh Valley, the Health Network, and she's a supervisor of programs for the Center for Mindfulness and Stress Reduction. Are you stressed out? How do you relieve your stress without medication?
I have a little doll that has its hair standing up in the air.
I thought you were going to say I have this little bottle or something.
No, but this little doll and it has stress. What stress? And it's the hair sticking up straight. And yeah, a lot of us are like that because I think we're being pulled in 50 directions.
Well, we'll find out when we come right back. But if you're stressed and you want to reduce your stress, we have some tips. So stay with us. You're watching The Girls on SSP TV.
Turn the light on.
Tried to. The light's on.
Hop on back.
Look at these weird glasses you bought us. Boink. Well, are you stressed out? You're watching the right show to learn how to reduce that stress. You're watching The Girls here on SSP TV. And we've learned that over the last 40 years, research has showed that mindfulness-based stress reduction. So we're happy to have Lisa Wolk with us on today. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah,
My
thanks
mom
for
and I were
having me.
talking about things we wanted to cover this season on the girls, and one was handling stress. We're all stressed, and after COVID, it seems like more people are trying to alleviate their stress in some way or another. And
Get back to a normalness. There was so much stress. I myself have a girlfriend who was always had some stress problems. The COVID actually pushed her over the edge with what to clean, what not to clean. Am I going to get sick? Am I going to die? So all of the stress, I think, has trickled down into even some of the kids. So what is your title? What is it that you do for Lehigh Valley Health Network?
Well, I came to Lehigh Valley Health Network in 2020, actually during
Ironically.
COVID. Yeah. So we did a lot of our programming online, and I was already teaching a lot of this in my own studio, and I wanted a bigger venue to actually teach the program that I was trained in, which was mindfulness-based stress reduction. And so, so I worked with them for several years. They had me do a lot of curriculum updates because I was probably the person that was the latest to go through, what was most up to date. So we did a lot of that, and somewhere along the pathway, Dr. Susan Wiley, who created the Center for Mindfulness 22 years ago, was deciding she might be thinking about retiring. So they asked me if I was, wanted to take her position. So she was really a visionary. Thinking back in the 90s, starting something like this when no one really knew what the word mindfulness was. Mm-hmm. So she did an amazing job of growing that program, so I've been working under her, for several years, and she just officially retired on November 17th. So I took the position of supervisor of programs, and I do a lot of program designs and putting different teachers in different places and things like that. So it's fun. I have a really great team that I work with, a really great team of teachers. And so we're hoping to grow the program out of just the Lehigh Valley because, there's so many other Lehigh Valley places and they really don't get as much access to us. So the first place, of course, is Hazleton since I live in the nearby community. So hopefully we're bringing it here real soon.
Right.
It's one of our first.
Well, what is mindfulness? Now you're talking about mindfulness. I've heard mindfulness used with eating and with, especially
be mindful
of what you're eating. So tell us what in your particular program for reducing stress, what is the mindfulness there?
Well, mindfulness is really an innate capacity for awareness. And many people say, I can't really do this thing that you're saying. I can't, and meditation is just a way to access it, to access this innate capacity that we already have. And if you think about maybe a time in your life that something really exciting happened, maybe you're getting married or you had a child, or even some tragedy that you were told, you're in really great attention of that. Yeah. And that's really what mindfulness is. It's paying attention on purpose in this moment. And the other piece to that is in a non-judgmental way. That's a really important piece to it because sometimes things that we find may not be real comfortable things when we're really paying attention to our thoughts and our emotions. So kind of looking at what we're finding in a curious and kind way, befriending whatever we find. That might be the harder part of it too, because we speak to ourselves in not really kind ways, and we don't like what we find.
Right. If people are more apt to judge everything that they see now, I think social media did a lot of that. Being able to see themselves on cameras and whatever and be exposed. And I think we not only judge ourselves, but then we try to set a standard for ourselves based on what we see on television or what other people are doing, because we could achieve pretty much anything we want. So that judging. In fact, our priest just mentioned that at one of the homilies about how to look at something and not judge it right away. Like that's the first thing we do is judge it. Yeah. So
and kind of just being. It doesn't mean that we may not want to change some things in our life once we discover something, but being able to kind of take a step back and be a little more friendly towards ourselves. So there's a huge self-compassion piece in mindfulness, and actually in some cultures the word mindfulness also means heartfulness. So if you're kind of missing that, you're missing the whole lot of it, behind it.
So we say to do that. How do we do that? So
How do we do that? Is that right?
How do you make that change? What are the steps, or what are the exercises maybe that somebody can do to get themselves to start thinking or changing their way?
Actually, mindfulness is really simple. It's already in us to be in attention of something, right? Whether it's this cup that's in front of me, that I notice it, I notice the colors. And when you mentioned mindful eating, that's probably one of my more favorite topics. I was a registered dietitian for 30 years and did a lot of mindful eating discussions. But if you think about using mindfulness as an informal practice or an informal meditation practice, and you have your food in front of you, firstly, like even listening to the body, am I actually hungry? Mm-hmm. Not because it's 12 o'clock or whatever that I eat. So am I actually hungry, and what do I really want? And when I decide what I want, putting that in front of me, seeing the textures and the tastes and the sights and the smells. So really taking in what's in front of you. Like, food should be joyful. It's not meant to be, a punishment. Like, I should
robotic too.
Right,
yeah,
right.
We
like,
eat automatically.
I'm eating what somebody else told me, and even as a dietitian, we never, especially the newer dietitians coming out, we know diets don't work in many ways, but when we can start listening to our body, that's a whole nother thing, right? Mm-hmm. But that takes some practice. So we can apply mindfulness in a couple of ways. We can do it in a formal practice, which is something that you would learn a lot about in the curriculum that I teach, because it's over 8 weeks in time. And you would learn seated meditations, you would learn lying down body scans, you would learn mindful walking, mindful
body
movement.
scans in a
body scan, right. A guided body scan would be something where you would put the awareness on various types of the body. Okay. And it can be very relaxing, but it can also be triggering, so there's a very particular way to do that. Mindful walking, these are all formal practices, and mindful movement, yoga or qigong, or just plain old mindful movement. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. But when we're talking about informal practice, we're talking about those day-to-day things that you normally do on autopilot. There's no thought process to it. I brush my teeth, I take a shower, I say hi to my dog. Even the communication that we do one another is oftentimes automatic. We're not really listening to the person that's speaking to us.
Like, hi, how are you? Good, how are you? And the people they're walking away from you.
Right. Yeah. Or generally we do a lot of mindful communication in the curriculum too, because generally people do is if you're saying something to me, I'm already forming what I'm going to say back. I'm not really hearing what you're saying. Right? So mindful communication is super important, right? There's something about turning inward with meditation, but if it doesn't help in our communication and in our interpersonal life, it's not really that meaningful, because it becomes really important, right, to connect with people that we love. So if our child is speaking to us, are we really hearing that? Or are we multitasking the entire time? Right? We're doing this, we're doing that. So informal practice is just as powerful as that, picking out the cabbage, at the one of the monks had said that. Picking out the cabbage at the market is just as powerful as you sitting in a seated meditation for an hour, right? Being in attention of what I'm doing while I'm doing. And that becomes really important in our day-to-day life, right? We pick up on things when we practice in both of those ways. We get clarity about ourselves, about our life, about, what is that thought that I have all the time? What is that?
And does it help you remember what you did? Because
your attention
so
and
many
focus.
times I might put my keys somewhere or whatever, and I did pick up on the mindfulness part of that, and I find myself when I place something now, I look at it and I know where I placed it, so I can recall instead of just doing it.
I need mindfulness to find my car when I park it in a parking lot when we come back, instead of using my app to find my car. But that's the story when we come back. You're watching the girls here on SSP TV with Lisa Wolk. She is with Lehigh Valley Health Network, the supervisor of programs for the Center for Mindfulness Stress Reduction. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're helping you clear the clutter in your head, get rid of stress, at least help you with mindfulness here on The Girls. Our guest today is Lisa Wolk with Lehigh Valley Health Network. and we were talking about, you know, being mindful of where we put things or where we leave things. And I am notorious, ask my kids, of losing my vehicle. I recently started walking at my place in Florida, and I park my car and then I go and I walk on the beach because I'm trying to walk and meditate. So I was
talking with me on the
talking
phone.
with her on the phone when I start, and then coming back to my car, I'm thinking, oh no, where did I park my car? Is it under this building? Is it under that building? Is it under that condo? I said, oh my God, I can't find my car. I walked like a mile further trying to find my car. When I remembered I had the app to look, the AirTag, so I was 0.4 miles away from my car. I would have never found my shoes or my phone or my car if I didn't have the AirTag. But again, it's mindfulness. I'm always doing two things at once. Even when you park at a grocery store. I need balloons hanging from my car for when I come out. It's like a party, right?
Yeah, it's a party, all right. It's a party with you. You've lost so many jackets. I don't know how she loses a coat.
Sunglasses.
Where's your coat?
Multitasking's overrated.
Isn't it? So is stress higher with women than men? Are there any studies that you can tell us that deal with stress?
Actually, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
But I know women do tend to do a whole lot of things at once. You know, raising a family, and a lot of women are working, and they're trying to, you know, get everything together and keep everybody's schedule running. And I'm sure that's not the case in every household, but women do a lot, and the brain can only handle so much. There's a lot of brain research on that, and we think we can do 5 things at once, but we're really not. Something's getting missed.
Do we even know that we're stressed? I mean, guys are great at focusing in on one thing. When my husband's going to do something, he could focus in on that one thing, whereas I'm doing, as you said, the multitasking, because I think I have more responsibilities depending on which environment we're in.
Right.
So, yeah, the stress is there, I think, for everyone.
I think it's personality driven too, and also thinking that we have to do all these things that we might necessarily not have to do.
That we constantly as a society have to be busy.
Right. And one thing that mindfulness can teach us is what is important to us. As we're spending time getting clarity, realize that like whatever happens in this moment over here is dependent upon where you are coming from in this moment. So if you're coming from a place of high anxiety or fear or sadness or anger or grief, you're making decisions based on that.
On how you're feeling.
Right. And it's kind of rolling down the hill into the next moment and the next and the next based on what's happening right now. So I think seems pretty easy to see that having clarity in your moments is something that's really important. And that takes some silence and some quiet and some time away from distraction. And that's really hard. Some of the hardest things about people that take our program is, how am I going to set aside 30 or 45 minutes a day to do these practices? Like, how am I going to do this? Amazingly, thousands and thousands of people have done that, that have went through MBSR over the last 40 years, but we don't think that we're going to be able to do it. And another misconception is my mind's crazy, I can't meditate, and it's not true. It just means you haven't learned how to focus your attention in this way, or how to pay attention in this very specific way. And that's something that can be learned.
So things that can be learned, are there things that people can do right away from their homes? Other things that they, I know they should, if they take the class, what are they learning in class? And are there things they take home then that's their homework? Is that what you're saying?
Right. So maybe we'll talk a little about mindfulness-based stress reduction. That is our gold standard program that we have at Lehigh Valley Health Network. It's we're really lucky to have it there. It's in a lot of centers. It's probably in 700 centers across the country, across the world. This program actually exists. So to have it in the Lehigh Valley and potentially have it in Hazleton's really a gift. We have a hard time finding teachers that are trained in this because it's kind of a rigorous training to actually get to. But when you come to the class, we do an orientation, and the orientation is required because there's a lot of intensive teaching that goes on, and it's 8 weeks, 2.5 hours. So again, you need to know, what am I really stepping into here? And I'm like, can I dedicate that much time? And we also want you to know that there's a lot of home practice. We don't call it homework, we call it practice, because that's really what you're doing. So there would be different formal practices, and there would be informal. And we're also learning a lot of other things about ourselves. There's a lot of discussion on beliefs and perceptions. A lot of people think about themselves in a particular way. Well, I've been this way my whole life. I'm not going to be any different. Which again, is that really true? That we can't do anything differently if we choose to? So we learn a lot about our beliefs in that way. And
so how long does it take the person, excuse me for interrupting, because you said something about changing your life. Is there a cycle in your life? Is there a time in your life? How long does it take to break a habit or to change yourself?
Well, habits are really ingrained, and there's something called a habit loop, which is maybe you know something that you do all the time that you really don't want to do, but you have a trigger that sometimes pushes you to do this. And addiction's a perfect example of a habit loop, right? I have a trigger, and then I go into a particular state from that trigger, and I do a behavior, and it just keeps going round and round. And until I have something to put in there, a wedge, which mindfulness would be the wedge. Man, I'm aware now. I know what I'm doing. I might not be able to stop it right away, but the awareness alone changes something up, and just in that exact moment, I'm aware that I'm going to do that.
So do you give people the tools to...
Right, the tools, the
wedge.
mindfulness is the wedge,
Okay.
like what can I do differently to, and so, by week 4, you're learning about the stress response in the body and how it affects, you physically and mentally, but you're also learning about your stress patterns. You're actually going home and learning, like, what do I do when I'm really stressed? Do I shut down? Do I eat? Do I drink? Do I smoke? What do I do? Do I run away? Do I get aggressive? Like, you're starting to learn, so it's kind of like, you're bumping up against some difficult stuff right around that point. And then learning how to respond rather than react to something, right? But that takes a lot of time and practice, that I can pause, know what I'm doing, and then take a different direction, right? Maybe not say the thing that I normally would say that would hurt another person or myself, or worse. Think about how the impactfulness of, if I knew how to take a pause before I acted in a particular way.
So it's 8 weeks, the whole program. And it's provided in Hazleton at Lehigh Valley Health Network.
It's at Cedar Crest.
Okay.
At Cedar Crest. The spring program is at Cedar Crest. The fall is in Muhlenberg. And I hope to have a fall session here in Hazleton. So,
but if people want information, they can go on Lehigh
yeah,
Valley.
they can go onto the website, and there's also a full day silent retreat involved in that 8 weeks on a Saturday.
What do you mean by silent?
It's
we
in
can't
silence.
Speak at all.
Yeah, it's teacher-led. We're there, but we invite all the graduates back that have ever taken MBSR. Many come back, and they come in with our new class. And it's really a gift to get to spend a day with yourself in that way. We're just doing different practices. You're not sitting all day. You're, you're doing walking practices, movement. You're doing seated practices. And
are there things that people can do when they walk or sit quietly? We have about a minute. If we can give some general tips on
so
how to relieve some stress.
So an attentional focus practice would be something other than the informal practices that I mentioned to you, which are things like when I'm taking a shower, actually noticing the feel and the smell of the soap and the water on my body. When I'm petting my dog, notice the feel of my dog. When I'm speaking to someone, right, notice what they're deeply listening to what they're saying to me. But to do a formal practice, even if you start at 5 minutes, your mind's going to wander, right? Because we have lots of thoughts, and that's okay. That's not a problem. It doesn't mean that you can't meditate, but have a place that you can place your attention. It could be the breath, the in-breath and the out-breath. As soon as you notice the mind wanders, just come back to breathing. If the breath isn't comfortable, come back to your feet on the ground, your hands in your lap. To feel the seat against your back, something that's here in this moment, sense of sound, maybe the sounds that are outside. So as the mind's wandering, I'm just going to keep coming back over and over to that focus of attention that I've chosen. And there's freedom in that, right? I can choose where I want to place my attention.
And what will that teach you?
Well, we'll change your brain up a little bit, right? That I can pause, and that I don't have to let all of these thoughts. They're what get us into trouble, because thoughts turn into stories, and stories, especially negative rumination, turns into potentially depression for some people. So in the literature, what would be assistance to depression is this decentering that we can do. I can see that it's a thought, but I don't have to believe it, and I don't have to add to it. Because when I add to it, I'm adding to my suffering already.
What ifs?
Right, I'm adding to suffering, right?
So you think of the thought and then you let it go.
Right, just like, yeah, there it is. That's a thought. Is it true? I don't know, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe I can just, let it float by, or, like if you see a leaf falling.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, thank you for being on the show. Again, there are ways we need to know, first of all, what the steps are to reduce stress, and then actually do those steps, correct?
It's fitness for the brain. If you'd go to the gym, right, to get fit, you couldn't do it in 3 times. You'd need a whole bunch of times before
And
you
stay
change
with
it
it.
up. And stay
Mental
with
health
it.
is wealth, right?
It's consistency.
It's the truth. All right.
Well, I hope you learned something here on the girls. Like we always try to give you some helpful tips. And if you think you would like to do this, make sure you look at the information that's on our screen. Get in touch with them if you need more information. It's there for you. And take a deep breath and smell the roses. See you next time on the girls.